WorldAware's annual global forecast report looks at various regions around the world, as well as categories including health, environment, terrorism, kidnapping, and transportation. I'm Tony Roccaforte, Senior Intelligence Analyst covering political violence, terrorism, and armed conflict at WorldAware. I'll be discussing the mounting tensions in the Levant and the increasing prospects for another Israel-Hizballah war in 2019. The conflict between Israel and Hezbollah stems from a larger effort by Israel and its allies to combat the growing Iranian-led axis in the Middle East. Nowhere is this aim becoming more immediate for Israel than in southern Lebanon. Iran and its Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps are politically and militarily entrenched in Iraq and Syria, but Lebanon's Hezbollah is by far Tehran's strongest proxy in the Middle East. In the last decade, constant threats from the Gaza Strip have been seen as the more immediate security issue. However, their impact beyond southern Israel has been minimal, while the threats from the north, though more muted, have the potential to be far more disruptive. Israel and Hezbollah have fought two major wars in the last 4 decades. The last war erupted in 2006. During 5 weeks of intense fighting, hundreds of Lebanese civilians were killed, thousands were injured, and 1 million more were displaced. In Israel, dozens of civilians were killed, over 1,000 injured, and 250,000 were temporarily displaced. The next fight will likely be much worse. Hezbollah undoubtedly poses a substantial threat to Israel. However, Israel also needs to contain the threat in the Gaza Strip to avoid the possibility of a two-front war when tensions with Hezbollah erupt. Iran has considerable sway with Hamas, the political authority in Gaza. Hamas-led militants present a more immediate challenge to the Israeli Defense Forces. However, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's cabinet is clearly divided over how to address the situation in Gaza. A major offensive in Gaza would likely have adverse effects on Netanyahu's broader security strategy in the region. Israeli offensives in Gaza, while generally quick and easy tactical victories for the Israeli Defense Forces, consume substantial military resources, which Israel will likely need when tensions with Hezbollah escalate. Gaza offensives also tend to be public relations nightmares for Israel. The Israeli government is trying to rally the broader international community against Hezbollah in Iran, and Netanyahu has even found common ground with powerful Arab allies bent on curbing Iran's influence in the Middle East. However, given the Arab world's public affinity for the Palestinian cause, a major offensive in Gaza could drive a wedge between Netanyahu and his Arab partners. As such, Netanyahu will likely opt for a less aggressive approach aimed at achieving some measure of stability in Gaza while avoiding alienating his political base at home and his allies abroad. Hezbollah's indirect fire platforms present an enormous threat to Israel. Hezbollah has a broad range of artillery systems and ballistic missiles it can bring to bear when the next conflict intensifies. Israel believes Hezbollah has more than 100,000 rockets that can range between 20 and 100 kilometers into Israeli territory, as well as hundreds of ballistic missiles capable of reaching Tel Aviv and beyond. Israel often boasts about its multi-tiered missile defense system, the Iron Dome, Arrow platforms, and the recently fielded David's Sling system, claiming an 80 to 90% intercept rate. However, these systems have never been tested against an adversary with Hezbollah's purported capabilities. The Iron Dome faced a major test during a recent flare-up in Gaza in November, and the results were not particularly impressive. Hamas-led militants lobbed 460 projectiles into Israel in a 48-hour period, more than double their average rate of fire during the last major escalation in Gaza in 2014. Hamas was clearly gauging the Iron Dome's capacity to withstand concentrated mortar and rocket fire. And given the number of impacts reported inside Israel during that 48-hour period, it would appear Hamas was able to, at least in some cases, overwhelm Israeli defenses with extremely concerted barrages. If true, Hamas exposed serious gaps in Israel's defenses, and Hezbollah was almost certainly taking notes. Several influential Israeli right-wing politicians, including current and former members of Netanyahu's cabinet, appear to be pushing for war. Netanyahu's coalition in the extremely polarized Israeli Knesset nearly unraveled in late 2018. If Israeli far-right leaders take control of the Knesset in the coming 2019 elections, they might take the opportunity to advance some of their more controversial policy objectives, including pressing a war with Hezbollah. The IDF has already launched hundreds of preemptive strikes targeting suspected Hezbollah and Iranian-backed forces, weapons caches, and supply convoys in western Syria in recent years. However, in September of 2018, Russia supplied Damascus with advanced S-300 anti-aircraft batteries, which may provide somewhat of a deterrent against further Israeli aggression inside Syria. If Israel cannot maintain pressure on Iran and its proxies in southern and western Syria, then the IDF may be forced to confront Hezbollah in southern Lebanon, which could trigger a major escalation in the region. If hostilities between Israel and Hezbollah escalate, mandatory evacuation orders could impact organizations operating in southern Lebanon as well as in northern Israel. In a matter of hours, Beirut and Tel Aviv could be inundated with refugees fleeing the border regions. If international efforts to broker a ceasefire fail, Israel may end up targeting Beirut International Airport, which will likely force authorities to halt all air traffic in and out of Beirut for several days, if not weeks. Hezbollah, in response, may also attempt to target Ben Gurion International Airport in Tel Aviv, but long-term disruptions in Tel Aviv are unlikely. If airstrikes, indirect fire, or warning sirens are reported in your general vicinity, report to the nearest bomb shelter until given further instructions by authorities. If there is no shelter nearby, stay indoors, away from windows and exterior walls, and if possible, move to a ground floor or basement. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this brief overview. Feel free to tweet your questions using the hashtag 2019 Global Forecast, and I'll be happy to address them. For more information about the 2019 Global Forecast Report and to download an executive summary and security assessment rating maps, visit the WorldAware website at www.worldaware.com.